Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks, Caitlin. As she said, my name's Ed Bianchi, and I manage the program at Kairos. Kairos has two offices, one in Toronto and one in Ottawa, and I work out of the Ottawa office. I want to thank Pastor Brett for welcoming us here, Kenneth for your welcome to the territory, Alma, thank you for your prayer and for grounding us, and also acknowledge our guests tonight, Kim, Michael, and Anne. And all of you for taking time out of your Friday evening. You could be participating in gate night tonight, but instead you're here at the fracking forum. We just passed the anniversary of the adoption of the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples in September. The UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples was adopted almost unanimously by the United Nations in 2008. There were 4 votes against the declaration, and Canada was one of those 4 countries to vote against it. And the other countries were United States, Australia, and New Zealand. You can sort of see a little bit of a pattern there. And in its statements, Canada explained why it voted against the UN Declaration. And it said that it was concerned with those provisions in the Declaration dealing with lands, territories, and resources, free, prior, and informed consent when used as a veto, self-government without recognition. There is no mention of the word veto in the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, nor does it come up in any of the articles in the Declaration that address free, prior, and informed consent. Around 2007 and 2008, when the UN Declaration was adopted, Kairos started being more interested in free, prior, and informed consent, and in particular, what that meant from an Indigenous perspective. What did free, prior, and informed consent mean for Indigenous peoples? And because Kairos is blessed with partnerships around the world, not just in Canada, but Asia, Africa, Latin America, we had the opportunity to start dialoguing with our partners about what free, prior, and informed consent meant. And the more we talked to them, and the more we understood how it is a process, it is a way to reconcile Indigenous and non-Indigenous ways of being, worldviews, ways of life. We thought we need to do something that can help people understand that understanding of free, prior, and informed consent. So we started to work on a video. And the working title of the video is called The Culture of Life. Because as we were working with our partners, we started to understand what the meaning of free, prior, and informed consent was actually trying to help us to understand Indigenous views on life. So what you're going to watch tonight is a 6-minute preview that extracts some of the information from some of those partners that we spoke with. And we hope to have the finished documentary released in the new year. And it'll explore in more detail some of the concepts and issues that our speakers address in brief clips tonight. So because we're, 4 hours ahead of Vancouver, this is really the world premiere of this preview. So hang on. Remember, it's only 6 minutes, so if you don't like it, it doesn't last very long. But I hope you enjoy it.
It's like going to somebody and saying, well, we're going to tear down your house now, and then after the fact, we'll come back and talk to you about how that's going to impact you.
It's a constant struggle, really, to keep up with all of these activities. So many activities have gone on without our free, prior, and informed consent. So we're dealing with ones that are coming in new, but there's all these other activities that are happening that happen without it either.
For so long, we've been living under as wards of the state, and we want to be able to let people know how developments in our house are going to impact us.
As far as I could remember, I always lived on the land with my parents, my brothers, and my sisters. My home is always where I was born. My home is always on the land.
My great-grandfather is buried in the site. This is a very sacred place. I want to make sure this area is protected because it's sacred to me. Everything that represents the land is my life. The water, the river that flows, that's my life. And the sky is also my life.
Kahit ganitong buhay namin, sila na rin kami sa mahirap. Kahit ho kami walang pera, basta hindi nawawala yung aming lupang ninuno, malaya po kami kalooban, mapayapa po kami.
De eso depende nuestra vida, porque la tierra nos da nuestros alimentos, que es el espacio donde estamos, ¿verdad? El espacio social, natural, cultural, el espacio político, económico, donde realizamos todas nuestras actividades vitales. Ese es el territorio. Tenemos una forma de vida en la que estamos defendiendo.
Las empresas llegan a saquear todos los recursos. Ellos se van con sus dólares, con su plata, con el oro, pero sin embargo dejan destruido nuestro medio ambiente. Entonces, ¿cómo vamos a seguir avanzando? ¿Cómo vamos a vivir nosotros, los pueblos indígenas que vivimos en los municipios? Entonces, es una violación completa y terrible a los derechos de los pueblos indígenas, a la destrucción de los territorios.
It's not a fair playing field. It's not equality for all. The companies and the government may or may not consult, and whether they have consent, they go ahead anyway.
We are concerned about what was happening within the territory, oftentimes without our knowledge and oftentimes without our consent.
Los pueblos indígenas se les ha despojado de su idioma, de su traje, de su identidad, porque hay toda una política de cambiar a las personas. Yo no sé qué tanto les molesta a los pueblos, a los otros pueblos o a los empresarios más que todo, ¿verdad? Porque son ellos quienes generan estas políticas de explotación. ¿Qué es lo que les molesta a los pueblos indígenas?
And that is the ultimate responsibility and the ultimate sacred duty that we have, is to protect these resources so that future generations will also have the opportunity to be able to enjoy the resources that we too enjoy, and that the land will continue to provide for future generations of Aksinimexibeninoak. And it is the ultimate law that governs Aksinimexibeninoak, and that is to protect the land and the waters.
There might be areas that we would consider for development, but that's our decision to make. It's not somebody else, and that's why free, prior, and informed consent is so important, is that the consent of the community, and that includes the traditional governance and current government. We are the ones that have to come together and do that properly so that our communities are informed when they make these decisions.
This is an opportunity for us, an opportunity for the provinces and this country in recognizing first people of this country that you need our consent. There's a fear-mongering out there that title land is off limits. There's no economics. But we all know in this country we need to look at economics sustainably in a way that we're not stealing from our future generations, in a way that we all are benefiting from it.
We are a very generous people. We are a very kind people. But that should not be mistaken for weakness.
We have always, historically, asserted our rights around free, prior, informed consent. As a nation, we have inherent responsibilities to protect our relatives, the lands, all of the animals, the trees, the rocks, the forests. And we can't shrug that responsibility. Free, prior, informed consent is not giving us anything. it's something, it's acknowledging and recognizing something that we already had.